Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's me again, Mark, and in this video I wanted to show you how I made these cute little succulent illustrations. I wanted to keep this simple and easy, so hopefully this will inspire you to start making art as well. And I wanted to show you all my steps so that you can follow along if you have the materials on hand. Now, as you can see here that I've already made the drawing of the succulents that we will be coloring today. If you have an idea on how to draw your own succulents, I would recommend you do that, or you can also pause the video so that you can copy the drawings that I made. I made these sketches with pencil and then I inked over them using Faber-Castell Pitt pens because those pens are waterproof. Now, if you're gonna be using line art in your art as well, I would recommend that you use waterproof ink so that it will not smudge over when we are painting over it. And you can see here that I'm already wetting the paper, and I do this before I apply paint because I wanted to make the first wash really smooth without any textures and for the colors to transition really nicely. And you can see on the first succulent that I made that it already has some blue and some green on there. Blue on the top to suggest the presence of farina, and then green on the bottom because I think that the farina would have been rubbed off out of the stems, so that's what I did. Now on this second plant, you can see me that I use just pure green. I think the bottom part of the stem is a different shade of green because when I saw the images of Graptoveria lovely rose on the internet, they're practically mostly all green, but the shape of the second one really resembles a cute little fat rose. Now for the third one, I wanted to go with the Graptopetalum ghost plant, which is a little bit yellowish, and the reference I used is a little bit yellowish and bluish on the center. You might not be able to see it there because the light was reflecting on the water. But now on this second part of the video, you can see me adding the midtones. This is usually the main color of the subject that you are painting without the highlights. And you can see me, I'm applying midtones in a way that will show that the light is coming from the upper left side of my subjects. So I'm adding midtones on the lower right side. And you can see me, I'm also adding some shadows. And then after adding those colors, I activated the paint with water because these are watercolor pencils, and I wanted to make these colors really smooth. And you can see me, I'm starting on the lighter parts and then moving towards the darker areas so that I don't push the colors into the light if they are from the dark. Now, as you can see here on the other plants as well, I'm also adding the midtones in the same manner that I did on the first one, and also with a little bit of help from the reference, I placed the midtones on the darker parts of the Graptoveria lovely rose, and so that we can add more depth to it. And then I also activated it with water, and I did some of these clips in a time-lapse method so that you can see me doing everything and not just cutting through the sections of the drawing. And also I did that with the third one, but on this one, when I first laid down the first wash, it wasn't as blue as I wanted, so I added more blue, and then I also will be adding yellow to the other parts of the plant because that's what I see in the reference. Hopefully, I was hoping that when I activate this, it will mix with the green that is underneath so that it won't look purely yellow or purely blue. And I think that's what happened later on when I activated it with water because paint is transparent. It will mix in with the lower layers if you activate it with water. Now for this next one, I added some variations. Keeping your painting interesting, it will really help to add some variations in color. I added green here to suggest that the plant has rubbed off its farina on its outer leaves, and then I'm adding a bit of purplish shadow. I think the shadow on the first leaf is a little bit too dark, so I actually tried to wash it with clean water. That's what you can do if you want to soften the edges, but it just pushed the darkness even farther. So I cleaned my brush again, and then I brushed it again so that I will remove some of that excessive darkness. And then that's what I did with the rest of the leaves. I added some more shadows to suggest even more depth and even more light. Now I think this will be the last layer that I will be putting as a paint because yeah, I wanted to keep it simple. I don't want it to become too complex or too realistic looking. I wanted to keep it like a little bit illustrative, and this type of illustrations has a lot of uses. You can probably use it if you wanted to make some advertising, if you have a succulent page, or if you are selling succulents, or all around if you wanted to make some succulent illustrations that are simple or something you can teach with your children. I think that this will be really nice, and that is what also I'm doing on the last succulent there. I added more shadows. Now for this next part, I'm adding some highlights using the white pencil and also some line art with other darker colored pencils so that we can make the succulents pop out even more. And then I'm adding these little pencil strokes to suggest more texture and more depth. And I find that with the transitions between the light and the dark, you can add some textures because those places usually you will see more textures if you're actually looking at real plants. So that's what I did. I added more textures in the transitions between the light and the dark. And on this Graptoveria Lovely Rose, I added a texture on the underside of the leaves so that I can add more depth. Because when I placed the shadows at the beginning, I thought it was dark already, but it still wasn't dark enough. So I added these textures underneath so that we can add more depth, we can make it darker. And I don't want to paint anymore on this part because I wanted to keep it simple. And then I also added these yellow colors so that we will add more interest and it will appear that the plant is glowing. So that's what I did, and I'm really happy that I made that decision. It really helped. It really brought cohesiveness to the entire piece because every part of the plant, every plant that I made in this one has some variation in texture and color. And that's also what I did with the last one. Now I'm just adding some final line arts, and you can see me here on this final image that I added a little bit more details on the stems and a little bit more line art. I just wasn't able to record everything, but you can pretty much figure it out how I made those. And hopefully with this little video, I encouraged you to make your own art. And also, I'm just saying this now that you can also experiment with your own colors if you wanted to make these cute little illustrations. I would recommend it highly because you will only know how beautiful your art is if you start experimenting. But I think that's about it for this video. If you have any comments, comment down below and I will see you on the next one. Bye!